Rain drummed insistently on the derelict building, demanding entry and obtaining it everywhere. Everywhere except for the one intact section of roof that had survived over the room in the corner of what had once been a house, a home. Not so now. Tumbled heaps of stone were all that remained of many of the walls, and those that did remain were streaked and scarred with the black wounds of energy weapons. This would never again be a home, but it could still serve as a temporary refuge, as the dim flicker of a small fire pulsing through the doorway of that one surviving room testified. Other than the fire, there was nothing in the room save for 2 boxes. One of the boxes was smallish and splintered in places, but still sturdy enough to support the man who was sitting on it, staring into the flames. He sat with his elbows on his knees and his hands clasped in front of him, a slightly built man whose grey hair and beard, rounded shoulders, and tired, illusionless eyes spoke eloquently of age and grief and the fatal diminishing of hope. Only he knew that there were in fact 3 boxes in this room, not 2. The third was hidden from view inside the only other box visible at that moment, the one that was tall and blue, standing in the far corner, with a subdued light emanating through the 6-paned windows set into its sides. The glass of the one window in the room was missing, its few jagged remnants edging the gap like broken fangs in an open maw. Its absence made it possible for the woman looking through it to see, in the far distance, a muffled orange blush, rendered indistinct by the intensity of the driving rain. "What's that glow, Doctor?"
"Another burning city,"
said the doctor, without taking his eyes from the fire.
"Another city destroyed by the Daleks. Another city I couldn't save."
"You've saved entire planets before now. Entire populations."
"But not my own. The one thing, it seems, I can't do. Gallifrey burns everywhere, and no matter how hard I try, I can't put the fires out."
His voice contained no possibility of self-forgiveness. A shadow crossed Asteriam's face as she turned from the window to look at him. "Sometimes there is nothing you can do. Nothing you can even say. Sometimes all you can do is to continue to be."
"Ah, yes. To be or not to be,"
said the doctor, picking up on the phrase with irony.
"That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing, end them. Well, the Daleks are trouble, and I am going to oppose them, and end them."
"You had the chance to end them at their very inception on Skaro. You questioned such a radical step at the time. You said, 'Do I have the right?'"
"Right,"
the doctor snapped, jumping to his feet and turning to face her.
"People. Ordinary people. Wonderful, incredible, ordinary people have the right. Their children have the right. The right to live in peace. The right not to be destroyed as sacrifices to the ambitions and purposes of others."
"You destroyed Skaro. That is, you tricked Davros into doing it with the Omega device."
"But that wasn't enough, was it?"
the doctor said bitterly. He turned back to stare into the fire.
"Even that didn't end the Time War. It goes on, endlessly reaching out like tentacles into all of time and space, and ripping away all possibility of peace for anyone and everyone. There are only 3 ways to end a war. If both sides want it and negotiate. If one side slaughters the other into submission, or if there's no one left to fight. Neither on one side, nor on both."
Asteriam's eyes were unreadable in the flickering firelight. "Doctor, what are you thinking?"
"Stop calling me that!"
There was exasperation in his abruptness.
"Why does everyone still call me that? A doctor is a person who heals. I stopped being that person a long, long time ago. I've seen the effect of too many bombs, too many bullets to be that person anymore."
"You once told me bombs and bullets are the first resort of the stupid."
Subsequent experience has taught me that they can also be the last resort of the desperate.
You can still be a doctor again.
A doctor doesn't fight fire with fire. That's all that's left to me now.
Fighting fire with fire can still result in the infliction of burns. Not only on those fighting, but on the innocent they're seeking to protect. Achieving the greater good can sometimes necessitate the greater grief. You know that, Doctor.
Yes, I know that. There's always a price to be paid. I know that to achieve peace for others means I may never be at peace with myself. On Skaro, yes, I asked if I had the right to destroy the Daleks. Circumstances took the decision out of my hands then. Now, I've tried and tried, but I haven't been able to avoid the only conclusion that's left to me. That the one remaining choice is between right and necessity.
Dasterian moved away from the window to face him across the fire. Do you remember what I said to you in the futurity chasm? The doctor's eyes narrowed thoughtfully.
That I was going to change. And you were right. I have. But you still wouldn't tell me why. Or how you knew.
And when did I say I was going to tell you?
As I recall, you were waiting for the right moment.
She looked at him steadily. Isn't that what you've been doing? And haven't you chosen the moment? Something in her voice made the doctor look at her sharply.
You know, don't you? You know what I'm going to do.
Yes, I do. He tried to fathom what she was thinking, but he couldn't.
And you aren't going to try to talk me out of it?
For a moment, Dasterian laid her hand against the TARDIS and looked at it gravely. Then she turned back to the doctor. I think only you can convince yourself. You know better than anyone that some moments are right and some moments are wrong. In your current frame of mind, don't you think you risk choosing the wrong moment?
Only I can be the judge of that.
Judge, jury, and executioner. Multitasking is overrated, Doctor. It often means you do several things badly instead of doing one thing well. Before you make that kind of decision, I think you should ask yourself if there isn't another way.
Do you seriously think I haven't asked myself that?
Doctor, you're not listening. You should ask yourself. It's something you've done before, after all. Comprehension dawned.
Ah. You mean 2 heads are better than 1?
2, or even 3. There are precedents. When you faced Omega, for instance, and Barusa. The doctor shrugged sceptically.
And you think that would make any difference? That it would make anything better?
To be better, you have to have a standard of comparison. Something to be better than. For the bar to be set higher, it has to start low.
It's hard to imagine it ever being lower than it is now.
The doctor turned away from the fire and went to the place at the window Dasterium had vacated, staring out into the unrelenting gloom. Then you who were the doctor, make yourself better, said Dasterium from behind him. That better person. Choose the moment, time it correctly, and you will be the doctor again.
And what about your right moment? Has that come yet?
He was answered only by the relentless drumming of the rain overhead. When he turned, the room was empty. Of course it was. He turned back to the window and stared at the distant orange glow for a long time.
You're right, Dasterium. I have chosen,
he said eventually, in a murmur barely audible over the percussive beat of the rain.
The moment to end all this. The only moment. And the only solution.
He went to the TARDIS, pausing for one last look through the window at the distant dying glow of the burning city. Then he went inside, where the third box awaited him.